I am Leah Kvares. I'm your head of education. I do all these things in club, and I hit the same pose in all my pictures.
My name's Anthony. This is like the ninth time I've shown you this slide deck. Yeah, I was the president, old and retired, head of research, old and retired. I'm a physical IG co-lead, Lettuce Club founder. That's new. I've been to all the RITSEC like poster child internship locations, and I'm a harmonica enjoyer. I know a bunch about wine and juggling now, kinda. Boo, that was fucked up. So we do have a general disclaimer because a lot of the cyber things you learn here, like you can kind of use them, but this is stuff like you can just actually just go and do to random people. So there's some ethical considerations, specifically for social engineering that kind of falls under like textbook manipulation. So probably shouldn't be doing that to people. Open source intelligence too. Like Leah's gonna show how easy it is just completely dox me in like under 9 seconds. So stuff like that, just like we didn't teach you how to do it, and we didn't teach you how to do it evilly if you do. So just please be nice. So open source intelligence, or OSINT, is how it's described, is using different things that are already existing online, like no secret government repositories. This is just stuff that's completely out there, like Google, social media, and things like that. So a good example of this is Google dorking. So when you use Google and you type in like, why is RIT so expensive, or something like that, and it's like, it's a top 100 school. Fun fact. That's using Google normally. But you can use specific search operators to kind of really narrow your search down from like millions of things to like 12. So for example, if I specifically want the word cybersecurity, I wrap that in quotes, and then every single result that I get will only have the word cybersecurity in it. It has to match that. Another thing would be like, if I'm looking for specific websites, if I put admin in quotes, I'm only going to get admin panels. There's things like site, where you can specify what sites it's coming from. So there's like this huge, massive list of things you could look for of like $signs. I only want to have prices. If I put in the minus sign, so I can't even think of an example. Say like camera, but then I subtract like for sale. It'll just show me cameras and it won't show me anything for sale. So like you can kind of narrow down exactly what you want using these search operators. So for the next example, if I want to go to site, specifically I want to look for anything on rit.edu, and I want the text to contain the word admin. So say they left like a little admin panel behind, or some sort of thing that we really shouldn't be seeing, like the mailing list for the computational gravitational research thing, which these are password protected, but I feel like I shouldn't be able to just see all this stuff. And it was like a billion search results for RIT, but if you do that admin thing, you get it down to like 10 pages, and you're able to see things that like you probably shouldn't be able to. And then another example, you search my name in rock, paper, scissors, sometimes you get some goofy stuff, hypothetically, of course. Yeah.
Social media is a great way to find information about people as well. People love yapping. They love talking about themselves. And it's really useful. Like, if your mom posts pictures of you and your childhood on Facebook, like that, I think that's a collective experience, and it's usually public. LinkedIn is huge for job info. Like, I mean, we'll get to this later, but like job scams and things tailored to you, like if they know where you are, where you're working. Twitter, sure. You could, yeah, people post a lot of their thoughts on Twitter, and a lot of other things. But yeah, even if the target themselves don't really exist, their family or friends do have a lot of probably are online. And like an example of that is like if you're looking for someone but they don't have Instagram, but you somehow find like their friend connection, then you can like deduce if there's a picture of like the friend group and then the person's not tagged, that's probably what they look like or something like that.
Yeah. So for something like usernames across apps, you could use something like What's My Name, the web version, where you just put in a username and it'll tell you exactly what that person is tied to. So say I type in Leah's Discord username, I can see she likely, not for sure, has Snapchat. She's played a lot of Minecraft, Docker Hub. That's probably a good hit. There's a banger on there. It's Steam, TikTok. Interesting. Which even if that's not true, that's still like a maybe, and it's worth checking out to see if any of these things hit. If you type in my Discord name, you could see some embarrassing stuff for League of Legends, but we'll ignore that.
Public records. This is huge. This is like a really useful thing. If you have someone's like real full name, especially last name and location, that's basically you can find a lot of information. These things look sketchy sometimes, but it's real documents that are just online. Yeah, if you Google public records, then West Henrietta, New York. If you know someone lives here, then you can find a lot of stuff about their house, for example. And there's other stuff like deeds, power of attorney, mortgages, other stuff. Yeah, it's just out there. And then do not do this. Do not go and use someone's credentials. But there are credential breaches, and there's things called data breach search engines. So basically, like, I think you guys have all heard of Have I Been Pwned? This is useful to find out if your password or credentials have been in a data breach, so you can change them. And there's also Dehashed and a third website that I forgot. But yeah, they basically all have the same function of showing you credentials for email addresses. So yeah, basically you can approach it from either like, oh, I have a username and an email, or I have this person's full name, and there's two different ways to go with it. And it's also interesting because OSINT researchers, like when they're tracking down bad guys, they can use this to learn about their habits and see like, oh, they have this account on this website and this account on this other website, and that may provide some insight into their patterns. I made this slide. I'll talk about it a little bit, but like, yeah, there's just like insert word people search. This website is just like the same iteration of everything, and it's a little interesting because it gathers information that may be inaccurate, but it also, if you have things that you can verify from other places, you can confirm that information that is not available anywhere else, especially like address and family members, things like that. Some of these are paid. I think Truthfinder's paid. And then, for example, Shodan's really cool because this is where people find like open CCTV feeds that are not protected by anything. They're just on the internet. So that's cool. Anything else?
Pretty good. I have
other
like
tools.
Examples. So some of these tools, one of them is the Harvester, and I'm 91% sure this was made by an RIT alumni. And this is pretty effective if you just like pass it something. So like Cali.org, and it'll just search and just crawl for the internet, like for anything relevant. Shodan is one that Leah mentioned. So like this one's actually extremely useful, and I believe you get a student plan or something like that that lets you actually use this. But one day I got bored and I like looked for RIT, and then I was just scrolling through results, and I did find a actual like publicly exposed camera. It was in one of the printing labs, and it was like pointed at the ceiling, so it didn't really help at all, but like it was still there, and we had a publicly exposed camera at RIT. You could look for things on like different ports, for example. So like anytime port 22 is open on RIT, it'll track that. And this is just a crazy tool because there's like billions and billions of scans being done, and this has most of them. Another one is, I think this is not Multigo. I'm totally blanking on what this is. This is another web crawler though. So it'll go through. This is actually like pulled from Max's slides. This was all like Enzo's, I don't know, the old president, his like email addresses. So it was like, oh, I found this email, I found this username, I found this thing. So different like tools that can just crawl the web. People have done this a million times of automation for OSINT, and this like these are good examples of that. Multigo's another one. I think if you take pen testing, you might have used this, where you put in like say a username and it'll just create like billions of different branches, and it'll like graph all these different relations. The free version isn't that great, but you can still get access to it and find a decent bit of stuff. And then one of the people search engines that Leah was looking for example, like, oh, like Obama lives in DC, and type it in, and like sometimes it's completely not accurate. But for example, if you ran this on me and you're like Anthony Ioppolo from like within 100 miles, if you say like Scranton, you'll get a hit, and like it'll just be like, oh, this is where he lives, this is his address, this is his siblings, this is how much his house is worth, this is like how many beds and baths. So like if you go up to someone, you'd be like, oh, like which one of your like 6 bedrooms do you sleep in? Like, come on, man. Like that's just on the internet. So that was the extremely brief cover of OSINT. There's a billion different things about it, but that's what we throw together. So the next is social engineering, and I think this is the most fun.
Socialengineer.com is a very good resource. And this is their definition of social engineering, which is any act that influences a person to take an action that may or may not be in their best interest. So basically, like manipulation. Why is social engineering effective? First of all, of course, you're exploiting human nature. So you're using what people are more inclined to do against them. People trust authority, for example, and oftentimes scams are like your boss or your CEO or someone in power who's asking you to do something, and you are more likely to oblige. High risk personality traits. I actually don't know what this bullet point means. Maybe we'll get to it. Tailored approaches and targeted intelligence gathering. That's pretty self-explanatory. That's that's where OSINT comes in combination with social engineering. You find a bunch of information about this person, and you can send them a super tailored phishing email, for example, and that will increase the likelihood of them actually clicking on something in there or taking action based on what you want. Like, it's way more likely to happen than if it's something not applicable to you. So it's a phishing email. FOMO. People are also want to feel included. So can't really think of a specific example of this.
Me.
Yeah, if I tell Anthony that there's a lettuce club at a different school, he's gonna want to make one here. Reliance on social proof. I think this is talking about what, like hive mind or something like that, where again, yeah, it's similar to FOMO, similar to human nature. People want to feel included, and they'll do things because they're like, oh yeah, other people do this too. And then, pretty sure this is also from that website. This is just like the attack lifecycle for social engineering. So again, you're going to use your open source intelligence or information gathering. Then you're going to establish rapport with the person, like build a relationship with them. Then actually exploit and execute that social engineering, which we'll get into this a lot. This is just like a little overview.
So one of the big things that you're doing when you're doing social engineering is building rapport. So the idea behind this is you're trying to build like a close relationship that somebody can trust you. And the important thing is that you can do this really, really, really fast. So if you're actually on a physical engagement and you see someone, you realistically have like a 5-second window to get them to trust you, which is pretty crazy to think of. And there's some pretty good techniques that can help you do this. So these are some basic rapport building techniques. To be honest, the best resource I've ever seen for this is a car salesman guide. Because if you walk in to buy a car, they have to get you quick and you have to trust them. So they kind of know what they're doing. Their whole job is sales. So that's one of the best guides. I forget what the book is called. I probably should have written it down, but it's a car selling guide on how to do this. So these are just some of them. I'm going to dive into detail about all of them. For example, the first one, ego suspension. So this is like slide rouletting myself. I kind of forget what I wrote for half of these. But you're pretty much putting your own feelings aside and just prioritizing the target or the victim and their emotions. So they have their own little precious feelings, and you want to make sure that that's the key part of your interaction. So I can understand why you're sad that your hypothetical tires got stolen in this AI rendering. And just showing them yeah, I do care. I'm putting your feelings of sadness first. And this is good for avoiding confrontation, because if somebody comes up to you and say they're angry at you, rather than escalating it, you give them the benefit of the doubt. You're like, you know what, your anger is valid, and that'll de-escalate. It'll help with confrontation, and it'll just make things a lot easier. When you're actually on engagements, someone helps you out, they're happy they helped you out, and you want to double down on that and be like, thank you so much for helping me. You're really awesome. You're the coolest person I've ever met here. Thank you for showing me kindness, and this is going to help you a lot. Another one is slower rate of speech. This is going to help you portray confidence, reliability. If you go too slow, it gets a little weird. And then you're also allowing them to respond more thoughtfully. You might be able to pull more information out of them. If someone's going in there talking to you, you're going to be like, dude, you're an idiot probably. And then not only that, but it also helps reduce conversational stress. So if I'm talking to you slower, it's just going to make things feel more calm. You're going to have more time to think about things. And it's just going to overall make things a lot smoother than zipping through the conversation. So if I'm talking to you and I'm like, of course you can trust me. Can you see my monocle? If I come on, who's not going to trust a guy like that? It's so simple. Actually, another really important one is sympathy and assistance. This is what's going to like get your foot in the door a lot of the time. It's just by being nice to people. So you're trying to create an emotional connection really quick. You're trying to say like, you can rely on me, I can rely on you, and you're getting kind of a collaborative relationship. Like they give you a little, you get a little back, and like everyone just gets a little happier. So like, wow, somebody took your tires. Can I give you a ride to campus? Like that's just like so endearing and nice. Like, damn, like how'd that happen? That's crazy. And you're also creating future compliance and creating trust. So if I've helped you in the past and then you've helped me back, like you're going to be more inclined to reciprocate that in the future. Where say I like pick up your ID for you, you might let the door, or you might like leave the door open for me. Pulling some of the sympathy on like actual tests. If you're on a vishing call and you call a bank and like it's your wife's quote unquote bank account, you're like, my wife just cheated on me. She locked me out of the account. I don't know what the password is. And like if that guy has anything going wrong in his life, like relationship wise, he's just be like, oh my God, like I feel so bad for you, man. Like here, just have her bank account. Like that actually has happened. I've seen it happen, something like that, of like this person cheated on me and like now you have their bank account. So this actually goes a long way because people like helping each other.
This kind of goes with like the slower rate of speech, just the way you hold yourself. If you're not supposed to be somewhere and you're like cowering in a corner, you're gonna get caught much faster than if you're confident and you just like walk in there like you belong. Yeah, increase your approachability. To like, yeah, I said all this. Don't be a creeper. Don't be creepy. And yeah, other thing, just like this is just like public speaking and like this is just advice on how to be like a confident person. Honestly, open posture, eye contact. Don't be like, yo, you want to unlock the door for me, bro? Smile and wave. Just like be a nice, approachable person. Pretty straightforward.
The best advice I ever got during my X-Force training for social engineering was like, the dude just kept saying over and over again, like, who wants to stop just like a little guy? Like, if you can just be like a little guy and you're like waving, you don't really like oversell yourself. You just kind of want to blend in. But if you're just like, hey, like, who's going to be like, what are you doing here? If I'm like, what's up, man? Like, you're just a little guy. You're just walking around. It's awesome. Do you want me to do this one? This kind of goes into like the helping people out is asking questions. Because if you're asking someone questions, they're just going to be telling you stuff. You don't really need to have a conversation if the whole thing is them just like spilling their entire life to you. You're getting engagement because people love talking about themselves, so it's kind of just so easy just to have them keep going. So like if I come up to you and be like, oh, like nice like college shirt, where'd you go to high school? Like what was your mascot? That's like half of the questions for like security answers. And it kind of lets you keep a low profile. You're letting them do the talking. You're not really like giving anything yourself, which is just pretty good because you're just going to get little bits and pieces of things that are going to be useful later. So if you're like working on a test and you're like, how do I reset my password? Like they'll go through the steps and they'll be like, oh yeah, do this, like contact this person. They might like say like ask for this and they'll help you out where now you know something extra you didn't before. Like what kind of information do I need? Just things that are like normal questions. People are just going to like spill out answers to you that you can use. And then eventually you just work your way like, what's your SSN? Like just, it's so simple. That's how it works every time. Yeah, I just found this picture of wine. I thought it was awesome. I can't read that at all. Okay, it says quid pro quo though. So this is the idea of giving something and getting something. And this is kind of creating a sense of obligation if you do it right and gives you the opportunity for exchange where the old walk in with a box of donuts trick, if someone holds the door for me, I'll be like, yeah, I'll give you a donut. They feel better. They held the door for you. They got something in return and everyone's happy. This can work as like information too. I'm talking to you and I'm like, yeah, can you believe that like Jim forgot his ID this morning? And they'd be like, oh yeah, like the badge readers don't work. It doesn't really matter. So like information exchanges like that can be really effective for getting info and then also creating more trust because you kind of just opened up like a little trade network. If anyone get free Wi-Fi anywhere you go. It's a banger video if you look that up. But the idea of like free Wi-Fi, for example, like, oh boy, I can connect. It's awesome. It's free. But at the same time, they're just like harvesting info from you. So it's like not really free, but like you're getting free Wi-Fi. So it's just like a trade-off of you're getting something, but you still have to give something up too.
All right, time constraints. This one runs the risk of being the most like red flag raising because if you're hurry, induce stress, buy now, things with urgency, there's people that will just like, not really think hard, and when you're placed in that kind of situation, just like, okay, yeah, I'll listen to you, whatever, yeah, I'll do this right now, I'll just open the door for you, doesn't really matter, to relieve themselves of that stress. But it can kind of backfire and go the opposite way and be like, no, like people will resist that because it's kind of weird. And if you're being pressured that much, then something's going on. Yeah, I'm not sure if this is a great idea, but you can threaten to blow up the office.
Actually meant to fix that one. I gave this slide deck sort of in physical, and I just did not fix that one.
Yeah. Do you have a better example, Anthony?
Um, for example, we had to come up with fake phishing emails, and I was like, oh, there's discounted concert tickets. Like, if you don't buy them now, they're just going to be gone. Which, like, sure, if you like that band, that was one of the big critiques. If you didn't like the band, oh well. But the idea of, like, buy now. Actually, when Mount Joy came by, I was like, I didn't buy a ticket, and then it was, like, night of. And then they sent out one last, like, Hail Mary email of, like, you really going to miss out on, like, you have to get the ticket, like, right now. And I was like, I don't know Mount Joy, but, like, they're kind of right. Like, I do want to, I got it right now. And it almost worked on me, even though it was, like, $70 tickets. So, like, just time constraints. You don't want to miss things. Like, you don't want to miss out on any opportunities. It's kind of human nature. Just, like, if like, scarcity also, like, I want that. Like, I need it now. It does wonders.
I just thought of an example. So I took the social engineering seminar last semester, and we had to write phishing emails. So what my pretext was like, oh, I'm an intern at this company, and this is like my first week, and I have an assignment due on Friday, and it's Thursday, and I really need you to answer these questions for me. Because it was like a security questionnaire or something. I was like a IT intern. So yeah, just to like get more information about their system and stuff. But if you email an employee and you're like, please help me, I'm just an intern, I really don't want to mess up on my first week, and my boss is so scary and this is due tomorrow, can you please just like take 2 seconds to help me? That honestly just combine a lot of those strategies, but time constraint is one of them there.
And I'm going to drop one more example. The physical test I got to go on when we were impersonating reporters, like student reporters for a magazine, they were like, oh, can this wait a week? And we're like, no, like we need, our deadline's Friday. So like if you don't give us the stuff now, you're not making it in the paper, sorry. So like stuff like that, they're like, oh my God, like, are we really gonna miss out? Banger. So those are the techniques for building rapport. That's gonna help you get to know someone really well. That's gonna build trust. You're gonna foster communication. There's also influence, which is kind of like shaping people to act how you want them to act. And there's a couple like techniques for this that sort of get a little sketch. So there's basic ones that like human nature kind of revolve around of like reciprocity. I mean, a lot of these are going to be similar to the rapport techniques, but these are just actually getting people to act on different things. It's like authority, commitment, scarcity, social proof. Like these are all like straight just screwing with human psychology to get them to do what you want. So the first one is reciprocity. This is like the first picture that shows up, which is crazy. I don't know why he's giving a sock for a lobster, but people like returning kindness. If you give someone a compliment, they'll probably give you one back. If you give them like a little treat, they'll be like, oh boy, like I'm gonna get you something. Like birthday, like I usually don't buy my friends birthday presents, but if they get me one, I'm like now I gotta get them one. So it creates an obligation, and you pretty much get like automatic compliance. There's actually like a really screwed up experiment where like, if you're like holding something about like giving someone a baby and they'll like take the baby and they're like, wait, what? Like if people just do stuff without even thinking about it. This works in car dealerships where I went to get my AC fixed and they had a free coffee shop and it was like, yeah, like take all the free coffee you want. By the way, like you need new air filters. And I'm like, oh, they gave me coffee. Like I probably should. And then I was like, they almost got me. People love little treats. So like things like that, it's easy to work with. On actual engagements, if you help someone go through the entire password reset process, they're going to be thankful, like you did all this work for them, and then you just throw in like a little like, oh yeah, like what'd you change it to? I'm just a little curious. That's probably a horrible example, but like people do that sometimes. I've seen that too.
Yeah, we kind of touched on this, but again, people in authority, like you're going to listen to your boss, you're going to listen to your professor, someone in charge in general. Less resistance. Oh yeah, like the IRS. Yeah, totally. I forgot about this, but like, government agencies of like, oh my God, your taxes. We're gonna take your house if you don't. I don't know. Send us Bitcoin. Then I keep combining multiple things in the example, but that's kind of how you succeed. You have multiple ones. But yeah, authority and like time constraint are like really, really good in combination. Impersonating officials, and like, yeah, I can like walk in somewhere and like just make a fake badge. FBI open up, like they're just not gonna question it. Probably they might question it. I'm John IBM. Tell me your password now. Did that happen to you?
Something like that. Impersonating any superiors. Like if you do OSINT on people and you're able to find out managers, and like say it's a huge company and they don't really know their manager that well, they're not going to be in the same office. That impersonation will work. Like inspectors, like food inspectors, for example. If you walk in and say I'm a food inspector, you have to let me in. They're probably going to be like, oh my god, like this person has the authority. Yeah. So actually, I did have a the question was, are we gonna have a disclaimer on this because it's mostly illegal? I actually asked about this at work because I was like, can we impersonate like authority, like police officers and stuff? And again, I'm not a lawyer. I don't know if this holds up at all. But what I was told from people who have been doing this for a while is that if you're on like within the premises of where you're supposed to be testing, anything flies. Because like someone, yeah, like an adversary is not gonna like be like, I don't want to do this. That's illegal. So yeah, the second you like step out and you're like a police officer and somebody like, oh my god, this person's getting robbed, like that's a crime. So
Yeah, guys, don't do this unless you're authorized on a real penetration test.
please. Yeah. Another one that's really good is commitment and consistency. This is a really good picture. I love this shark. It's Greenland shark. They live apparently to be 400 years old. Thinking hurts. It's a lot of work sometimes. So if you've ever done that like trick with your friends where you like ask them a bunch of yes or no questions and they're like no, 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 and then they're like, are you dumb? And they're like, or wait, are you smart? And they're like, no, wait, yeah. Like that's just how people work. And you could pretty much get this to be like a little path of escalation of like, I don't know, like so if anyone's ever gone through like the clearance process of like, have you done anything wrong? No. Have you done this? No. Have you done that? No. And then they'll like throw in like a curveball. And it'd be like, are you like not a terrorist? And they'll be like, no, wait. And like, it happens. Like, this is actually something that like works. So like, oh, can you hold my pencil for me? Yeah, sure. Can you like check my badge for me? Yeah, sure. Can you hold the door? Like, yeah. And like, people will just keep doing things if you keep asking them. They give me 1 cent to $1 million, maybe a little bit of a stretch. But things like pencil to badge to door, like that's a pretty reasonable jump, and a lot of people will make that.
You totally already covered this. Yeah.
So a little bit like social proof is people want stuff that's in short supply. So you're creating urgency. This is another thing, the time constraints where you're building rapport. This is something that you can exploit pretty well. So like people don't want to miss out on things. They're going to overthink, or they're going to like, they don't have time to think actually. They're going to immediately act. And a lot of the times that's wrong if you can shape that in the right direction. So like the Mountjoy's Tomorrow incident of like, I wasn't going to buy this, but like, oh my God, it's in scarcity. I might actually do that. So I don't know what I was going to say. Oh, a lot of times if you like buy now, like people can start seeing that as like scams. A lot of people have gotten better at that, especially with like phishing training. But for the most part, if you could slip that in pretty casually of like things that make sense of like, I'm a reporter, my deadline's Friday, like people are going to believe that. And then like if you're sending out a phishing email, like click that makes no sense. But like, oh, like V-Bucks are in short supply, like everyone's stealing all of them. Like make sure you click this right now to get a free V-Buck. It might work. Maybe. That's a horrible.
If anyone is or was in web app, you know, like the lab with the BWAP lab, when you have to do the free tickets for like cross-site request forgery, that's like, yeah, as long as you get people to click the thing, it doesn't even matter afterward that they realize they've been tricked. It's just like, oh my God, something's free. Wait, I need this right now, and then they actually click something else. It was fake.
Humans love fitting in. We're like social pack creatures. I think that's the way people describe it. But it helps reduce doubt. If everyone in this room all had their laptops off and they were typing away and you're like the only person actually sitting and paying attention, like, or actually flip that. Everyone should be paying attention. But you're going to want to like fit in with what everyone else is doing. If you've ever read a review in your entire life, like that's what happens. You're like, I'm going to trust this person, even if it's Garrett, the local reviewing legend for Rochester. I think he's on track. People just like following what other people are doing. So anytime there's like group participation, like if you see a line on the side of the road, like you're gonna have at least a second where you're like, I need to get in this line without knowing what it is. And then if you were able to send out a thing of like, yeah, everyone in the office has just downloaded this installer except for you. Like they're gonna start saying really weird stuff if you don't download this. Like people are gonna be like, I want to fit in with my coworkers. Like I work here. Like what?
The biggest culture shock is like taking a non-cybersecurity class and then people don't instantly take out their laptop and you're just like, wait, what am I doing? Do I just like sit here and not be on my laptop in class?
It's just weird. It's like uncanny valley. I don't know.
Yeah, sure. Let's cover this again. People like little treats. Let's look at this graphic here. We've got a lady with ice cream and a doctor saying no.
Let's say he was holding a baby, but it was like, I'm just gonna censor that.
It's a baby.
Just trust.
Okay. But yeah, basically, operant conditioning is like reinforcement or punishment when people do things. So like, yeah, when I say, hey, I love when you respond fast and click my links, you're just gonna keep doing it, and then one day it's gonna be an evil link.
I saw an experiment someone ran on Instagram where they would message someone like good morning every single day for like a year. And then one day they just didn't say good morning, like total stranger, and then they didn't say good morning one day and they're like actually were hurt by it because they just got so used to like that little dopamine hit of like good morning, and like operant conditioning, like getting Pavloved, like that stuff actually happens. Where if I would like made a little buzzing sound and then like shot you with a Nerf blaster, like by the third one, you're just gonna be like buzz duck. So this stuff works, especially if like you can negatively reward like bad behaviors that you don't want. Of like, oh, you reported that email to spam, like that's kind of cringe. Like people are gonna be like, oh, really? And then if you're like, wow, you didn't report me, thanks. They're gonna be like, oh wow, like this person likes when I do this thing.
Crazy examples. This is how we get you guys to sign in. You know the pizza?
Yeah.
Think about it. Think about it.
Don't think about it.
Okay, let's talk about kind of applying these tactics. So everyone knows phishing. You know, when you get sent like an email or a text, some common ones recently was like the Easy Pass or whatever the equivalent is, like tolls that you have unpaid. It's it's like, first of all, this one I got from Lucas, so it says Ohio in there, I think. Nope, it doesn't. It says Easy Pass New York. Okay, but personally, I would get like New Jersey Easy Pass ones because my phone number is from New Jersey, and then it would say you have to pay this by today or tomorrow. So, like that's a bunch of tactics right there. This is a crazy email I got asking for Bitcoin. I don't really want to read this out loud, but it's this is like one of the most creative things I've ever received, and it's not like targeted or anything. It's just like a well-written email, which you don't see often. It's usually like vague and also badly written. I can just see everyone staring and reading. Okay. But yeah, this happens sometimes and it's a little bit entertaining.
So I've actually gotten one of these, and the email title was one of the passwords that I had used, and they pulled it from like a breach, and they like the email header was just like a password that I had, and like this was like middle school, so of course I used the same one, and I was like, I'm cooked. So like you read this and you're like, wait, they actually have my password? Like, what is happening?
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, they want me to buy Bitcoin. Like, come on, man. Can make it like $20 and maybe.
Yeah, obviously I redacted that. But up top also, like they made the, what is it called? The title of the email. What is that called? Subject, thank you. The subject was my email address, which is super creative. So they thought they could trick me into thinking like it's from my own email, if you like read the email. But yeah, this is just kind of relying on like you panicking and maybe you're actually guilty of something. So then like you're like, oh my God, I have to send them Bitcoin. Yeah. But anyway, we're getting off track. Phishing happens through all these things. I thought there was a slide after this with like listing a bunch of phishing, but it's not. Wait, let me just take a peek. It's just gone. Aw. Well, there was like some cool, like it was just a bullet point list of the different phishing, because now it's getting kind of out of hand. There's like smishing, quishing, vishing, you name it. Yeah, it, again, like I said, ranging from really bad to near perfect. It happens all the time. Social media dam's also a big one.
AI has also made this a lot harder, where like people who couldn't speak English at all now can like just generate random globs of text that are somewhat human.
Yo, check out my research presentation about AI and phishing. Crazy.
Splendid.
Yeah, and I guess we'll talk on phishing. There's supposed to be a video here too. What? It's not on here. Sorry, guys. Sorry. It's not right.
It's literally
there.
there.
It's not in the
She's
speaker
lying
notes.
to you. She's
Okay,
lying. She's so.
So this is a super cool video. I think this is like a super popular one where she calls probably the bank, and she's like, she has a fake baby crying in the background. She sounds like super flustered and like has the voice of a young woman, and they're just like, oh my god, this person she's having such a hard day. Like, let me just make her feel better. It doesn't matter that I'm not supposed to reset her password or whatever it is. She like got access to someone else's account as a proof of concept. But yeah, like basically what we touched on earlier, the bank account thing, that just happens. If things fall into place and like it's just a random person on the other end who's like been answering phones all day. They have someone who's a little bit more like personified, personalized person, still not personable maybe. And yeah, you just kind of connect with an individual on that level. You feel bad for them. You do something for them.
Vishing is really cool because like you can, if you act like a human, you're gonna get far. The vishing call that I did, I was like, by the end of the call, I was like, yeah, make sure you're not like picking up any mysterious phone calls or anything. And they're like, yeah, no, it's been everywhere. I was like, yeah, like you did a great job. You asked me all like the right questions, which I like lied about, and they just didn't look it up. And like, you're doing a great job. Like, keep it up. And they're like, thanks. And like, they felt better. Like, I got everything I wanted. So it's a little scary. It's a little screwed up, but
Yeah, it's a little better. Like if you have projects in class where you have to like email random companies and it's legit, you're just like asking companies for something where they do not need to respond to you, and it's really hard to make yourself seem real. So like I emailed the company and I was like, please, I'm an RT student, please trust me. They wanted a Zoom call basically to like make sure I'm real, which is what they said on the call. And like I am real, I promise. Like I wasn't like scamming them or anything. But yeah, people just inherently trust this more because they get to talk to a real person. It's not like you, at least like when you're vishing, it's not someone like halfway across the world who doesn't speak English well, which can happen and unfortunately happens to like old people. That's a whole thing. But yeah, like it says here, it's hard to say no to someone and you don't have time to think versus like a text answer where you can like read an email, consult with your friends, show them the email, blah, 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 think about it, and then not respond versus like, I'm getting a phone call right now. They're asking me something right now. Oh, I have to respond. No, I think you'll play the video. No, I don't want to play it. Okay. Do you guys want to watch the video? What? Oh, okay. I guess they were out of order. SMS phishing, QR code okay, I don't want. Oh, these are cool. Fax-based phishing and then traditional mail malware distribution. I did put this in the speaker notes. So, in Japan, cyber criminals, they used a home delivery service to distribute CDs, like like the physical discs that were infected with Trojan spyware. And then like the discs were delivered to clients of a Japanese bank, and the clients' addresses were stolen from the bank's database. So there you go. That's like your OSINT chain, where like you find out something about this people, you have their mailing address, and you don't even need anything else. You just like send them something, and they might plug it in. And that's kind of crazy. Like, don't plug things in from the mail, and that's also way less common now.
and then there's another one where if you give Google enough money, you can advertise like your phishing links to be higher than the real ones because they're sponsored. So instead of like Bank of America, you make it like Bank of Americo, and it looks close enough, and you're like, wow, the first result, and you click it, and like you're cooked. So that's another like really good one.
And the fax one is crazy too. I don't really know who has fax machines these days, but like, again, banks' customers received a fake message that claimed to be from the bank and asked them to confirm their codes. But it wasn't like usually they would receive those confirmation emails. Sorry, I just said the word. They would receive the confirmation through the emails, but instead it was actually like printed out, and then they just like sent them their details back. So yeah. So something cool. Again, like even more specific example is pig butchering. So first of all, that name sounds weird, but it comes from the analogy of like comparing, when you're gaining the victim's trust, it's like fattening up a pig before slaughtering them. But yeah, this is a thing where people usually bond with someone in like a romantic sense, and then they tell them like, hey, by the way, I'm involved in this crypto thing. Like it's been really successful. I've earned a lot of money from it. You should, send money here. And then they just get scammed and lose their money and then lose contact with this person. So what I just described was like the steps of how it happens. They gain their trust. Sometimes it's over like dating apps. Sometimes it's a random text message where it's like, I don't know if you've ever gotten this text where it's like, hey, Leah, this is whatever, let's catch up. And you've never like, you don't know this person, or they send it to the wrong person, like on purpose. They'll say like, hey, random name, how are you? And then you'll respond like, I'm not this person. And they're like, oh, hey, cool, nice to meet you anyway. And then they try to like keep talking to you. Don't like answer random texts. But yeah, they usually try to target people who they know are in financial trouble or just have some kind of issues in their lives, because that means they're more vulnerable. And yeah, basically, because crypto obviously is complicated to track and trace the transactions, after that, there's not really much you can do when you send it to them. There's like a really good ShmooCon talk about this, not like this time, but last ShmooCon. Yeah. Employment scams, this is super relevant. The job market's not great, and if there's fake job postings, like, I kind of just wrote this off the dome, but like fake job descriptions, having like a random email or like LinkedIn message pop up and say, hey, you've been selected for the final round of this interview or this job posting, and you don't remember applying to it, or maybe you applied to like hundreds of jobs you don't remember, so you think, yeah, maybe I did apply to this, let me like respond to them. If they hire you and then they ask you to like buy laptops and ship the laptop to them so they can set it up, that's suspicious. That's not good. They're just gonna like take your laptop. And then, yeah, requesting any kind of personal information up front without like a real job background check process. These are all like weird things, and people will use and take advantage of people who are looking for jobs to get this information because they're so desperate.
These will go around RIT a lot. You'll see like I need an assistant for my office. The pay is like $900 a day, and like, come on, man. Like,
Yeah.
make it believable.
If it's like data entry or something super simple and you're getting paid a lot, it's a scam. There's also kind of separate. It's a real job, but you'll be like a middleman for packages that they're stealing. You'll like forward mail for them, and that's all you do, and you get paid a lot. That's also weird. But yeah. And then business email compromise, or BEC, is like a big thing talked about these days. In the companies, scammers use email to trick people into sending money or giving away information about the company. And the targets will be either executives or leaders, because like you'll find information about them. If you Google the CEO of, I don't know, Bank of America, that person will come up, and maybe even their professional email or like some kind of contact info will come up. So yeah, you can like say, hey, I remember meeting you at this conference. Maybe if you found like they posted on LinkedIn that they went to this conference, you'll say you met them there, and kind of go off of there and ask for information, kind of tailored to them. Finance employees are a big thing because obviously they have information about accounts for like staff, like banking details, payment methods, account numbers, stuff like that. If you pose as someone in authority maybe and ask them for that information because of what, maybe an audit, or maybe just because you need it from a different department, there's a chance they'll listen to you. HR, of course, they have information about employees that you can get, so maybe you're going through them to get to someone else. Maybe you just want a bunch of information about the employees. So yeah, obviously, like, if you want contact info or schedules about employees, you go through HR. And entry-level employees, they don't know what they're doing, and they're not used to the company yet, so they might not know something's wrong if you're reaching out to them. So yeah, you can hit them up, and maybe they'll divulge some information that they have access to. Oh yeah, I guess I should cover like the numbers too, like, impersonate by spoofing the email domain, and it's just like the generic, like we've covered these social engineering techniques, but this is the application of it. In conclusion, humans are the weakest link in cybersecurity. People say this, it's like exploiting human stupidity. That's kind of like demeaning. I think you shouldn't call people stupid for clicking a phishing like test. If your company sends out like fake phishing emails to see if you'll click on them. But it's just like people can't help it. This statistic is a little bit more outdated than I like. It's from 2023, but there was a data breach investigation report that said 74% of total breaches were caused by human error. And in general, 10% of security incidents are caused or driven by social engineering.
Yeah, I mean, would you rather do an ASLR, AMC, and like all these different buzzword bypass to try to double hop through, or like just pick up the phone? Like, I'm gonna be honest, I can't type that well, so I'd rather just talk to someone and just have them tell me everything. Yeah, like it's just you can just pick up random information from people. I know David can attest to this, but we had like an FBI agent talk to our class yesterday, and he was like, "Yeah, and like we got like game day coming up." And I was like, "Oh, game day, is that like an internal like FBI like thing that you guys throw around when like you're gonna like do an op?" And he's like, "No, no, no." He's like, "We do this instead." And like, huh? So if I ever like call the FBI, I'm like, "Yeah, like is game day coming up?" I'll be like, "That's not what we say." And I'll be like, "Oh yeah, like I meant like op. Like what's that gonna be like?" It just helps add credibility. Like just pick up the phone, talk to people. It's awesome.
All right, are you guys ready? If you're ever wondering what kind of digital footprint Anthony Ioppolo has. So first of all, I just started with a quick Google search of Anthony Ioppolo, RIT. Let's assume that's all we know about him. We somehow get to someone's GitHub. I think it was the first. So this guy actually is very accomplished, very highly accomplished. He won a hackathon with some guys, and they had their full names listed on the team. So you just hop through some GitHubs. That's the link to the winning submission, and then you get Anthony's GitHub, which could be useful.
So I think the only thing public on there is that project and iCup, my malware.
Additionally, I used one of those Google dorking techniques. I searched specifically on this site, Instagram.com, and immediately found his Instagram. Unfortunately, it is private. You should private your Instagram. Like, there's no reason for it to be public. Good for you. And then, yeah, we just have a lot of stuff. This guy gets a lot of publicity. We have Liz up there. We have SRA posting. And of course, I think the LinkedIn came up like in the first page of Google. There we have an email address that he's reachable at. So, you just gather a bunch of information about where he's worked on LinkedIn and maybe like say congrats on the award if it was recent, and then boom, you're in. Send an email with that. What else? And then we go to RITSEC because of course RITSEC publishes all of our talks. So you gave a nice talk with Kenny last year, I think. And he says that he's from Scranton-ish, right? So we Google Anthony Ioppolo Scranton. Anthony Ioppolo, how do you say this? Wallenpaupack area high school.
So Lene Lenape for stream of swift and slow moving water.
Yeah. So I search up the high school. It's in Pike County, Pennsylvania. I search up quote Ioppolo to make sure I get that in the search result. Pike County, Pennsylvania, property records. And then somehow, we get to like true people search probably. We get his address, 4 beds, 2 bath, built in 1979. Connected. So again, like I was saying, these websites aren't great in the fact that I found his parents because of his mom or something, and then it listed his dad at a different address, but I connected it because it was a previous address. Then I confirmed this information by looking at his middle school honor roll. Congratulations on grade 6 high honors. And then I see that he has an older sister in grade 8 at that time, who I see. Then, hold on. Then it's here. That's I confirmed that information. Right, we see Anthony there, and that is his age. Actually, no, that's not true. This guy's like really old. I don't know. See, it's sometimes wrong. It's wrong sometimes. And then I think I confirmed this sibling by going, because they all do sports. Sports pages are like the #1 way to get information on someone. You played like soccer and baseball.
Yeah, and then my older sister went D1 softball, like won the division for the team. The other one's like a track superstar, 9 records, but
So yeah, one of them had like a fun fact of like, oh, I have 2 siblings, Angelina and Anthony. So that confirms that sibling. Yeah, that's all for this slide. If you have like people's entire family, you can search up more. I just didn't feel like searching up more stuff about like their property and like using those public records like we talked about. And then this is just in general. This guy gets a lot of articles written about him. We've got the RIT, SRA, Red Team Scholarship, Quiz Bowl back in high school, Co-op Spotlight. SRA posts this on everything. Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn. They actually just like are social media demons. Obviously, we have him as the head of research and the previous president. he won a 3D printing competition. That's soccer again. And then this is also on one of those people search websites. Super interesting. It pulled it from LinkedIn, I think, because it says R and then redacted, which is RITSEC, president, and then Rochester work experience as an OL, which is true. I'm sure, like, I just know that about him, but you can find that somewhere. Maybe, like, pictures on his About Me again. And then, yeah, he was a senior cybersecurity pen test intern at X-Force Red. Yeah, there you go. And, yeah, we have, like, high school and college, what's the word? Matriculation? Maybe that's the word.
GPA is higher now, just saying.
Okay. Basically, yeah, like super specific stuff about his major and the time that he's been in school. So, yeah, that just shows that there's a lot of stuff out there about people. Maybe Google yourself, try this, find out what's out there about you. You can submit things for like websites to take you off. I don't have specific steps on that, but you can definitely look into it.
Usually per site, they'll have like a FAQ section, and that'll give you the step-by-step on how to request stuff taken down.
Yeah, it's low-key a lot of effort. I know there's paid services that, like, you know, delete you off the internet by, like, doing that work for you, but also you can just, like, go and ask them to do it yourself. It's not worth paying for. And, yeah, does anyone have any questions?
That was, like, my whole life. That was crazy. Yeah, any questions about how this is used practically? How you could do this to your little buddies? You just shouldn't. Yes, Kyle. Yeah, of course. So something like if you get just an email address, a lot of those web crawlers, so like the Harvester, Spiderfoot, I think is another one, they will draw those connections for you automatically. Usually it'll spit out a name, things like that. There's also different things for social media, where if you think someone has a social media, there's something called account knocking, where you initiate a password reset, and it'll show you like password reset sent to like to ***n@gmail.com. So if you have my email and then you're able to see that those characters match, like that's a good way to confirm existing information through just the email.
Yeah, I think I said this earlier, but like there's two ways. You either have someone's full name and location, which is a great start, or maybe their email and their username, because people love to reuse those things. Yeah.
And then especially even like the data breach thing with just the emails, like that's just a gold mine if you are feeling a little unethical for the day.
So Asa wants my middle name for the firefighters because of the puppy orphanage. You can find my middle name online. I actually tested it out. I didn't know it was out there, but it is.
How old am I? Public records will not show. Because back before writing, I've said too much.
Yo, anyone want to get OSINTed live? Yo, Garrett.
Off stream.
Yeah.
We could probably end the presentation and then just start live doxing people. Yeah. Does anyone have any more questions about anything? Please. This little crypto reference. Okay. Cool. Tremendous. Thanks, guys. Hooray. Wait. It's my last education talk. Bye forever.